Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and I've got a new team for you all, which I can't wait to show you. It's got some really fun Pokemon. So it's built around Calyrex-Ice Rider, insane Pokemon with absolutely insane stats. It hits so hard and is so bulky, but you do need to be careful because it is one of the slowest restricted Pokemon that you're allowed to use. So it's generally a Trick Room Pokemon, and you need to have really good support for it, and that's where the unconventional sets come in, and they are very, very fun. So we've got Mienshao and Drampa as two of the stars on this team, and I will show you what they do right now. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you don't think any less of me after this video. You will see what I mean. Before we get into the battles, if you enjoy my content, consider leaving a like and subscribe for more content. So in this first battle, we'll just dive into it. We're going up against a Sun team. They've got Groudon and they've got Venusaur, and that's kind of scary. We've got our Calyrex and Mienshao. Now, Mienshao kind of threatens the opponent because it can Fake Out, or it can Wide Guard to prevent like Precipice Blades. Fake Out can stop Venusaur's Sleep Powder. And I think that the opponent probably will predict one of those and maybe will just Dynamax their Pokemon. And therefore, I find that the safest way to get Trick Room up with this pairing is to use Mienshao's very, very cheeky move, which I will show you in a second. So they are actually going to Dynamax their Groudon, and that I find is very common when you use Mienshao, which has Wide Guard. People do predict Wide Guard or Fake Out very frequently, and they'll Dynamax very early in the match. That gives you a little bit of an advantage, because if you Dynamax later, it means that they won't have like an active Dynamax while you've got your Dynamax going, which is very good. But I do have Ally Switch on my Mienshao now. I know this is a very controversial move, but it's especially effective with Mienshao because it's a Fake Out Pokemon, because it has Wide Guard. In this situation, it doesn't kind of work out because I'm trying to prevent damage on Calyrex so that I can get my Trick Room up. It doesn't matter too much because they don't take me out, but I do take a significant amount of damage, which I'm trying to avoid with Ally Switch. Mainly, I'm trying to avoid taunts and one-hit KOs on Calyrex. So they didn't go for Max Flare, which could have been a problem. I think I would have still survived because it's not stab. On this turn, I'm thinking that switching into my Drampa is a good idea. I need to get a bit more positioning because my Mienshao is Focus Sash, and I can't wait for it to be knocked out because it won't be doing too much in this situation. Despite threatening Incineroar, you saw I have Inner Focus, which is so good. It blocks Fake Outs on Mienshao and it blocks Intimidate. So Mienshao is actually a very powerful attacker that does threaten Incineroars. It threatens Porygons. It's actually a really nice Pokemon to have. But on this turn, I actually Dynamax and just go for Max Guard because I don't want too much damage going into my Calyrex slot here. And they do go for a Max Flare. Now, I could have gone for a Max Hailstorm, but I know that it doesn't one-hit KO Groudon, and I just wanted to avoid damage that turn because I've already taken quite a lot. Now you can see where Drampa comes in, because we have the Cloud9, so that's blocking any boosting to Fire-type damage while we're in the sun. But I also have the Fling Lychee Berry, so Drampa's great for this because it's slower than Calyrex, so the Fling will go off first. And Lychee Berry gives it +1 attack. Weakness Policy gives it +2 attack. So we're now at +3 attack. We can easily take out the Dynamax Groudon and set up the Hail. Hail is kind of irrelevant because we've got the Cloud9 going on with Drampa. But we get a Chilling Neigh boost as well. So now we're at +4 attack in one turn. Thank you, Drampa. Thank you, Drampa. So that was really, really good. And the Incineroar is going for Parting Shot right now. So we've been intimidated once. We've had the Parting Shot once from the Incineroar, but despite that, we're still in the plus in attack. They're going to bring in their Incineroar again, get another Intimidate, but we're still +1 attack despite all of those drops, which is crazy, and that's why this is kind of very effective. Now the P2's out here, it's not too threatening, but it could potentially like reverse Trick Rooms and things like that. Unfortunately, my Drampa gets faked out here, but I can go for the +1 Max Quake into the Incineroar, get another special defense boost, get another attack boost, because we are going to one-hit KO the Incineroar at +1 attack. And we're looking pretty good now because we know that they only have Porygon 2 and their Venusaur, and both of those are special attackers. We've just got a special defense boost, so this is looking pretty good, as the Porygon does decide to go for the Trick Room, and that means that everything's reversed, everything's returned to normal. But at this stage, because we're +2 Glacier with a +2 attack Glastrier with a special defense boost. There's nothing that they could do to one-hit KO Glastrier. And I still have Drampa out here, which is good because it can, you know, support in ways, but I also have Hyper Voice, which is doing good amount of damage because Drampa is just a very powerful special attacker. It's got like base 136 special attack or something, so even uninvested, it does a ton of damage. Anyway, let's move on to the next match. So in this next match, my opponent leads with Incineroar and Milotic. Both of these are relatively passive, but I am kind of concerned about a taunt coming out from the Incineroar into my Calyrex, which would prevent my Trick Room. So I need to do something. I could fake out the Incineroar, or I could ally switch. I choose to ally switch. I think that maybe fake out would have been safer because going for ally switch, it means that Incineroar gets its attack off. But you'll see that actually that's not necessarily a bad thing in this circumstance. The Milotic goes for a Muddy Water. Calyrex dodges, but it wouldn't have done very much damage anyway. The only thing that might have been annoying would be an accuracy drop, but that's kind of what you play with Muddy Water. But you see that the Incineroar has Will-O-Wisp. Now, having a burned Mienshao is not good, but knowing that Incineroar has Will-O-Wisp is very useful information because I need to prevent my Calyrex from getting Will-O-Wisps. So in that instance, Ally Switch was, in my opinion, better than Fake Out because I would not have known that it had the Will-O-Wisp and maybe wouldn't have played appropriately around it. You don't see many with Will-O-Wisp, but it's definitely something to fear. So because of that information, on this turn, I make the play to Dynamax and go for Max Guard. I don't have Protect on my Calyrex. I have like Heavy Slam, High Horsepower, and Glacial Lance with Trick Room. You could replace Heavy Slam with Protect, but it's sometimes nice to get those defense boosts, and it's also good for damage in the Glacier or Calyrex mirror matches. So yeah, I go for the Max Guard. I really need to avoid that Will-O-Wisp because my damage output will not be good if I get burned. That would be really, really bad. As we see another Muddy Water, I've switched into my Drampa, so I'll easily be able to take that. Drampa's here now. Drampa can look after us and make sure that we're doing enough damage by flinging that Lychee Berry. Oh yes, Drampa, perfect, great work. And we're gonna get our +1 attack from the berry, then we're gonna activate our weakness policy, and now we definitely have enough attack to be able to one-hit KO that Incineroar with the Max Quake. And that's nice as well because we get the +1 special defense, which means that we can take any attacks from the Milotic a lot better. So that's a really, really nice turn there. We've turned things around a little bit, although we have wasted we've used 2 turns of Dynamax, and the opponent hasn't Dynamaxed yet either. But this is a Zacian team, so that's something that we need to bear in mind. Right now they can't bring it in because the Trick Room's up, and it's my Calyrex is way too threatening for that. They go for Icy Wind, maybe trying to get damage on the Drampa, but it does absolutely nothing because I'm relatively specially defensive and I've just got that special defense boost. But yeah, we're a Trick Room team, so we don't really mind about speed drops. The Charizard comes in instead, and that is actually going to be their Dynamax option, which is pretty interesting. Now, I want to try to just attack into that Charizard. I know that I can one-hit KO it with a Max Hailstorm, so that's what I'm going to try to aim to do. I do have 2 turns of Trick Room left, so I'm not too worried about, you know, Trick Room running out this turn. I can just easily click that Max Hailstorm and hope for some damage. We see the Milotic going for the Protect here, which is slightly strange, apart from they are actually just going for a double Protect, so they're protecting their Charizard too, which is really what they need to do. I go for a Hyper Voice. That's not going to do any damage because of the Protect, and neither is my Hailstorm. Now the following turn, we're in a little bit of a strange position because Trick Room is going to be wearing off soon, but I do need to get that KO on the Charizard. Ideally, I want to get a KO on both of my opponent's Pokemon, so we go for 2 spread moves, Hyper Voice and Glacial Lance, in the hopes that we can KO both. Unfortunately, Milotic does not go down. We get a crit on the Charizard with a Glacial Lance, but that doesn't matter because even at full HP, it would have been a one-hit KO, but we did have some chip with a Hyper Voice. We're at +3 special attack, +3 attack, now +4, I think, or maybe not. We took the Intimidate, so maybe slightly less than that. But yeah, now that the Milotic can go for a Recover and get back to a nice amount of HP as the Trick Room wears off, and we're actually in a really awkward position because they can bring in their Zacian, and that really threatens me. It can one-hit KO Calyrex even when Dynamaxed, so this is a very threatening position to be in. I have to make a really all-in play, basically, this turn, and I double switch with my Mienshao and my Incineroar into this. I needed my Incineroar because it definitely deals with Zacian better in this matchup, but unfortunately the Intimidate is going to activate Milotic's competitive and give it +2 special attack. I need at least one of these fake out users to survive this turn, because if they do, I can then fake out Zacian next turn and get Trick Room up with my Calyrex, and that puts me in a better position, but still not necessarily a winning position. So you see here the Behemoth Blade goes into my Mienshao, it takes that out. I'm not sure if I switched them in the right order here, because now my Incineroar has to take a single target +2 special attack Muddy Water, which does a ton of damage, but I survive on 3 HP. Only 3, but that's enough. I just had to survive. I do actually have a berry, so I get up to a little bit more, but I don't think I'm going to be surviving any other attacks anyway. I just needed fake out pressure to help me get that Trick Room up, and I managed to, which is very good. We still have to worry about a +2 special attack Milotic, and we have to worry about the damage output onto the Milotic too, because it will be able to take attacks pretty well. We also obviously have to worry about Zacian, because it's one of the best, if not the best Pokemon in the game, and it's very threatening right now. It can one-hit KO my Calyrex, and I'm really not sure if I can KO it in return. So we've still got Drampa in the back. Drampa is my beautiful little support Pokemon. I'm hoping that Drampa can take care of us and bring us to victory, and so I bring it in right now, and I need it to help me take out the Zacian. Obviously, we've already used our Lychee Berry weakness policy tactic, but we do also have Tickle on my Drampa, which comes in so clutch here because it reduces Zacian's defense, and that allows high horsepower to KO it. Tickle is a really great support move for Drampa because I can use it offensively or defensively. In this instance, it was offensively. I dropped their defense so I could KO them, but you can also use it defensively to drop their attack, and then, you know, you can maybe take a super effective hit into Calyrex, which will activate weakness policy that way. So it's a really nice support move for Drampa, and the fact that it goes before Calyrex in Trick Room is very important. So on this next turn, my opponent's just trying to wear out turns of Trick Room and also potentially PP. I haven't PP maxed my Glacial Lance yet, so that's a bit of a concern. But now we've got a single target +1 attack Glacial Lance into the Milotic, and that's doing a ton of damage. That's doing over half of its health, which is really good because it means that Milotic won't be able to recover stall forever. And you can see here that though they do miss the Calyrex with this attack, we saw how much it was doing the previous turn, and I would be able to take more of them, maybe 2, at least 2 more, maybe 3. And so I should be able to close that game out unless they got some crazy amount of accuracy drops once Trick Room finished. Yeah, we were going to win that one. So that one was a really close one. That Incineroar survival was so clutch, and it allowed me to win that game against the Zacian, which is generally not perceived as a good matchup, but you can make it work with appropriate Trick Room support. The next battle I want to show you is a little bit different, and it kind of demonstrates that though Calyrex is incredibly important for this team, it isn't necessarily the be-all and end-all, and we do have damage output from other Pokemon. So in this match, my opponent's going to lead with Kyurem White, which you never see, and that's so cool to see, and a Grimmsnarl, as I'm going to lead with Mienshao and Calyrex. In this one, I definitely want to ally switch because like a Max Flare from that Kyurem will do so much damage, and they potentially have dark moves from their Grimmsnarl as well. I'm not exactly sure what they'll have there. But anyway, they're going to Dynamax their Kyurem on this first turn, as I kind of would expect, especially considering that I have potential fake out pressure, basically. I thought that they would do that. So I want to ally switch here to get my Trick Room up and hopefully dodge a Max Flare into my Calyrex, as the opponent here is going to go for a fake out of their own with their Grimmsnarl, obviously not realizing that Mienshao has the inner focus, so it can't flinch. And that's kind of annoying because not having that knowledge meant that they thought that they could take it out without it doing anything. They identified it as a threat because it has very powerful close combats that can do a lot of damage to Kyurem. It probably would have done over half damage, but my priority here was actually setting up Trick Room. Unfortunately, that means my Calyrex is going to take a ton of damage and get an attack drop, which really is a bad start to the game. And my prediction on that first turn did not work out too well. So what I'm going to do here is actually get my Tapu Fini in to set up the Misty Terrain that will reduce the damage of any dragon type moves that Kyurem wants to go for. And also just to get the Tapu Fini in, because it's got a really nice matchup against the Kyurem. I don't think Kyurem would have any attacks to do too much damage to it. And they go for the Max Wormwind into the Mienshao. They revealed Foul Play on their Grimmsnarl, which is good to see because it potentially means they don't have Spirit Break. If Foul Play is their attacking move, they've probably got Fake Out. And yeah, I don't know what else. Maybe Screens, maybe Trick, maybe Thunder Wave, maybe Scary Face. But yeah, it means that they may well not have Spirit Break. So anyway, we get our Calyrex in here, and we can Dynamax the Calyrex. No, I say Dynamax Calyrex just because that's what I'm so used to saying. We can Dynamax our Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini's in a really great position here. Their team is generally quite weak to it. Tapu Fini has great coverage, and this is actually a super offensive Tapu Fini with like Muddy Water, Moonblast, and Ice Beam, and Protect with a Life Orb, so it's max special attack modest. They do have Spirit Break though, which is really annoying, and notably, they went before my Calyrex, which means that they are probably Iron Ball Trick Grimmsnarl, which is kind of annoying because it means that they're going to get special attack drops on my Tapu Fini before I can attack. Fortunately, I get a critical hit with a Glacial Lance into the Kyurem White, and that means that I can KO with a Max Starfall. I'm really not sure if I'd have been able to do that without the critical hit. I'm kind of doubtful because Kyurem White has just got so much HP. So now my opponent brings in their Mimikyu, and they make a very strange play. They go for a Shadow Sneak, and my Calyrex survives. This is definitely going to give them nightmares because now they've activated my weakness policy, and though Grimmsnarl's Iron Ball allows it to move first and get another special attack drop on my Tapu Fini, very annoying, I am able to go for a +2 attack Glacial Lance, which is going to allow me to take out the Grimmsnarl and break the Mimikyu's disguise. So that really was not a great play with the Shadow Sneak, and Calyrex really is just insanely bulky. If you're not KOing it with a super effective move, you have to expect an insanely powerful weakness policy boosted move coming back right at you. So now I've broken the Mimikyu's disguise, even at -2 special attack. This Max Geyser does a ton of damage, which is really good. And we can then set up the rain, which will allow my future Max Geysers to do more damage. It means that the next one can definitely KO Mimikyu, which is very nice. Unfortunately, my opponent's last Pokemon is Tapu Koko, which is obviously an issue because it can do a ton of damage into Tapu Fini. So that's not ideal. What's kind of cool is that they have to go for a Shadow Sneak into Calyrex with their Mimikyu, and that means that I can definitely get another attack off with my Tapu Fini, so I can finish off the Mimikyu with a Max Geyser this turn, and that forces the 1v1 their Tapu Koko against my last Pokemon, which is going to be Incineroar. And so that's why I'm very glad when I see that they have Wild Charge. It means that they're a physical Tapu Koko, and my Intimidate from Incineroar is going to help me out here. What's also good with Wild Charge is that they have to take a ton of recoil before Incineroar even comes out. So that will put them closer in range to, you know, being knocked out by my attacks. Hopefully that's the case anyway. So I bring in my Incineroar. One bad thing is that the rain is up, so that means that they're going to be taking less damage from my Flare Blitz. I go for a Fake Out on the first turn just to hope that I can get some damage there, just a little bit of chip damage. And now the opponent's Tapu Koko reveals Nature's Madness. This slightly concerned me because I was worried it might put me in range of the next Wild Charge without them having to take any recoil. So that means that my Flare Blitz recoil, it doesn't KO, it puts me in a really low amount of HP, but I am able to survive the Wild Charge, which is fantastic, and I do still have my Berry, so I probably would have been able to survive another one, so that's really, really clutch, and that means that Incineroar can go for a final Flare Blitz to close out this game. So this was a really interesting one. I just wanted to show you that Tapu Fini with the Life Orb and Max Special Attack functions really well under Trick Room. It's still really bulky, but does a ton of damage and is an alternative Dynamax Pokemon. However, the Iron Ball Grimmsnarl in this match was quite frustrating getting all of those special attack drops. But the other reason I wanted to show you it was that very, very ridiculous 2 HP survival with my Calyrex that is going to give my opponent nightmares. And speaking of Calyrex giving people nightmares, let's move on to my next battle. This one is a doozy. My opponent is going to lead with their Lapras and their Incineroar. This is a Lapdog team. That means Lapras and Zacian on the team. Very strong archetype that you see a lot. So I thought it was very useful to show you guys to see maybe how you can combat it. And yeah, in this matchup, again, the fake out into the Incineroar was an option, but obviously we could also try to ally switch. And in this instance, my opponent does Dynamax their Lapras straight away. That's kind of a given on these Lapras Zacian teams because Zacian can't Dynamax. So they just want to get their screens up really, really early in the match. We're going to, I opt to ally switch again because with that you can kind of gain some information. I'm not really concerned about damage output from either of these Pokemon. It's only maybe a taunt from Incineroar that I'd worry about. But the Incineroar reveals Protect. And that tells me that the Lapras probably has Perish Song, because if you have Protect on an Incineroar, that's to wear out Perish Song turns at the end of the game. So here we see the max resonance come out into the Calyrex, which is fine. They were trying to target down the Mienshao, but going into the Calyrex, obviously I can take that super well because it's resisted and get the Trick Room up, which is pretty good. They do have an Intimidate drop on me. They do have their screens up, so any damage that I'm doing is going to be very low. You can see I just go for a high horsepower this next turn, not really concerned about damage from either of these Pokemon. But yeah, I don't do much damage at all. And they go for another Resonance into Calyrex, maybe predicting another ally switch, but they kind of cover for me not going for an ally switch because I do go for a Parting Shot into that slot as well. So if I stay in with Calyrex, it means they're getting even more attack drops onto my Calyrex, and it means that Calyrex just won't have any damage output at all. But because they aren't targeting my Mienshao, I can now just go for a very powerful close combat into the Incineroar slot. They actually switch out into their Porygon 2, but they didn't have a good Pokemon to come in there, because if they switch into Zacian, getting a big amount of damage onto that would have been great. So yeah, they're ignoring my Mienshao, which is actually kind of a threat, despite being the fastest thing in Trick Room, which isn't what you want to be. Now I switch in my Drampa, I need to get rid of some of those attack drops on my Calyrex, otherwise I'm not going to have any damage output at all. The opponent switches out again into Incineroar, presumably wanting to get more attack drops onto my Calyrex, but it's kind of strange. I have Focus Sash on my Mienshao, so they're not going to be able to take that out with the Lapras. Maybe that's what they thought they could do. But switching in Incineroar on that slot allows me to get another close combat into the Incineroar, and it does take it out, which is really, really good. So the Inner Focus is just such a great ability, preventing fake outs and also preventing Intimidate drops. You can't overlook Mienshao. Mienshao is very good, and I really haven't been enjoying using this Pokemon. So now their Dynamax is over. They're successfully stalling out my Trick Room, but they're also stalling out their own Dynamax and their own Light Screen and Reflect turns. So I'm not too concerned about this. I just need to be very, very careful about not having Zacian on the field when I'm trying to set up Trick Room. These Pokemon are really passive. The P2 gets a recover off, which is kind of annoying, and they're just going to freeze dry into my Mienshao to take it out, so I don't get another close combat off. That's fine. But I've only got one more turn of Trick Room. I need to make sure that I don't KO either of my opponent's Pokemon, because I need to be able to get a Trick Room off before the end of the game, or else I will probably lose. So we're going to go for a Tickle into the Porygon 2. We need to reduce its defense stat, but I don't want to go for the Fling strategy right now because I don't want to KO anything. I think that going for a Fling might actually put me at high enough attack to maybe take out P2. Probably not. That's probably going a bit too far. Maybe a Fling strategy right there would have been a good idea. The Freeze Dry comes out into my Drampa. You can see just how bulky that Drampa is, and they target the Porygon. They target Porygon 2 into my Calyrex and do a lot of damage. Now I'm concerned that maybe they're going to take out my Calyrex before I can get the Trick Room up. If they go for a double target, which they do, but I survive on 12 HP, get another Tickle off into the P2 to make it much less bulky, so hopefully I can take that out. And I do get my Trick Room off. That was such a clutch survival. So again, we're going to be causing some nightmares in some people because taking out Calyrex-Ice Rider is such a mission. Now I'm going to Dynamax my 12 HP Calyrex, because because I kind of have a plan and I'm really hoping that it works. I can't go for fling strategies right now because I would probably do too much damage to my Calyrex, but we still have to beat a Zacian, so that's very scary. At the same in the same breath, it's like Zacian would one-hit KO my Calyrex regardless, so it kind of doesn't matter how much HP I have. So I'm going to go for the Max Quake into the Porygon 2 because I'm hoping at -2 defense I can take that out, which I do. That will give me a Chilling Neigh boost, which is very good. It also gives me a special defense boost, which is great. And with the doubled HP going from 12 to a massive 24 HP and the special defense boost, I've got my fingers crossed that I can survive a Thunderbolt. And again, we survive on 2 HP. Oh my god, this is so close, but it's still not over because I have to make a big boy play here. I have to predict whether Zacian is going to protect or not, because if it just attacks and like the Lapras can take me out. So what I do is I predict that it's going to protect and I ignore the Zacian this turn and go for the Max Quake into the Lapras. At +1 attack, I am actually able to take the Lapras out with the Max Quake, and that was very tense because if their Zacian hadn't protected that turn, obviously they could have taken out my Calyrex. I've only got a Rillaboom in the back, and Calyrex resists my Rillaboom's attacks. But I think I might have still had it, because if it had attacked that turn, I would have got the Tickle Off with my Drampa. I'd have got another Tickle Off this turn. It would have been at -1 attack, -2 defense, and I think even my Rillaboom with its resisted attacks would have been able to beat that Zacian at that point. But fortunately it didn't come to that. My 2 HP Calyrex comes to the rescue again, and we beat another Zacian team. So that one was such an epic match. It was so tense and a really weird beginning where like they were stalling out my Trick Room but also stalling out their Dynamax and their Light Screen and Reflect turns, and we just had to make sure that we were in the position where I could still get off a Trick Room, which I just about managed. That's super important. I hope that you're getting the impression from these battles that this is a relatively complex team to use, and so though it's kind of tricky to use sometimes, it's very satisfying when you get it right, and I can't tell you what it feels like to get some of these predictions right. It's just so good. On that note, I've got one more battle to show you. So I don't usually show showdown footage because I prefer the in-game stuff, but I do a lot of team testing on Pokemon Showdown. It's a Pokemon simulator. It's just very quick and easy to get your Pokemon ready, and you can test stuff out before making teams in game. And I had this amazing test match, which was just so insane, and I had to show you. So in this one, my opponent has got a Sun team, and they're going to lead with their Groudon and their Charizard, as I'm going to lead with my Mienshao and my Calyrex as usual. And I'm going to predict them to probably go for like a Wildfire and a Precipice Blades on that first turn. So what I want to do is go for that ally switch just to trade places. As the Charizard stays in and Dynamaxes, they actually bring P2 in instead of going for a Precipice Blades or anything like that, presumably to try to counter the Trick Room play. But this goes really well because not only do I set up Trick Room, Mienshao goes down at the end of the first turn, which allows me a free switch into Drampa. Now, I'm in a really interesting position here. What I think they might try to do is reverse my Trick Room with Porygon 2. So I'm going to make a big boy play, a big boy prediction. I'm going to fling into my Calyrex to get all my attack boosts and everything, but I'm going to predict the Charizard to protect. And I'm going to reverse my own Trick Room as the Porygon 2 sets it up again. Now their Charizard has wasted their protect. If they try to go for it again this time, it's probably going to fail. And I can go for a +3 attack Glacial Lance after a Tickle that one-hit KOs Porygon 2, and it one-hit KOs their Dynamax Charizard, which was mental. That gives me another 2 attack boosts, so now I'm at +5 attack. And they do actually have their Glastrier in back. That is interesting because it will be slower than me in Trick Room, but I haven't Dynamaxed yet. So what I can do is Dynamax my Calyrex and easily take their hit from their Glastrier, as I'm going to go for a Tickle on the Groudon, hopefully reduce its attack stat, although it actually has the White Herb to counter Intimidate users. But I can go for a Steel Spike to one-hit KO the Glastrier, get my final Chilling Neigh boost, so I'm at +6 attack, and I've got a defense boost, so that Precipice Blade is not going to do anything. Wildfire has done more damage than anything else in this match. And in this last turn, I tried to get a Hyper Voice off with my Drampa. It doesn't quite work, the Groudon protects, but my Max Hailstorm Okos even through Protect, which was hilarious. So that game was so hype and was a reason why I knew I had to show this to you all. This team is so fun when it goes right, and the Drampa strat is so fun. I've never used Drampa used like this as a utility Pokemon. It's very, very fun. Its Hyper Voices still do a decent amount of damage because it's got such a high special attack stat, even though it's not invested. It's mainly special defense with some defense as well. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content. It really helps me out. And also ding the notification button because I don't have a regular upload schedule. So if you don't want to miss an upload, definitely click that bell. And finally, follow me over on Twitter at SJ900. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.